In this video, I'm going to solve the ALEKS problem called Interconversion of Prefixed SI Units. There are 3 different versions of this problem. I'm going to solve this version of the problem, and I'm also going to talk about the other 2 as well. In this version of the problem, ALEKS is going to give you a measurement for a single object. For me, the object is a pill, and the measurement is the pill's mass, which is 900 milligrams. You might be dealing with a different type of measurement, like a volume measurement instead of a mass measurement. ALEKS is asking me to calculate that measurement for a larger quantity of the same object. So for me, it's 100 pills. Your different quantity may not be 100, it might be 1,000, it might be 10, it might be 50. It's going to ask you to recalculate the measurement, in my case, the mass, for 100 objects. And also, it's going to ask you to report that new measurement in a different unit. In my case, it's asking me to report it in kilograms. So for this version of the problem, there's 2 parts involved. One is changing the quantity from 1 to 100, and the other is changing the unit from milligram to kilogram for me. Now, some versions of the problem only involve this part. They only involve a unit conversion. They don't give you any information about quantities at all because it's not necessary. So one of the versions of the problem is just a straightforward, simple, relatively straightforward and simple unit conversion. Let's start with just the unit conversion process. So for me, I am being asked to do a unit conversion from milligrams to kilograms, from 900 milligrams into kilograms. And if you are just starting out learning how to do conversions between prefixed SI units or between prefixed metric units, whichever term you want to use. If this process is relatively new to you, then I suggest, instead of converting directly from a prefixed unit to another prefixed unit, that you instead convert from a prefixed unit to a non-prefixed unit. In this case, that just means stripping that milli prefix away and converting from milligrams into grams, and then converting into the desired prefixed unit. It is an extra step, but I will talk about why I suggest doing it this way as I set the problem up. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by writing the number and the unit that I'm working with. And this I want to multiply by a conversion factor. Right now I'm focusing on doing, I'm going to highlight it, I'm focusing on doing my 900 milligram to gram conversion. That's all that I'm thinking about. So I want to get rid of the milligram units. And to do that, I'm going to set up a conversion factor in the form of a fraction that has my unwanted unit on the opposite side of where it starts originally. So if my milligram unit is starting up on top, we can kind of visualize this as being part of a fraction. My milligram unit is starting out up top, which means in my conversion factor, I want that milligram unit to be down on the bottom. And my desired unit, which is grams, because we're not thinking about this part yet, my desired unit, which is grams, is going to go up on top. And we'll be able to see why I set it up this way in just a second. Now, to fill in this conversion factor, we've got to fill in these portions of the conversion factor. We want to consult a table of metric prefixes, or SI prefixes, as ALEKS calls them. ALEKS has a really good set of prefixes over in the data tab. If you click on the data tab and then open up SI prefixes, it's a super comprehensive list. It's giving you the symbols and the numerical meaning of each one of those prefixes. Right now we're dealing with the milli prefix, and we can see from this table that milli represents 10 to the minus 3. So what that means, the way that we fill that in here, is that 1 milli of anything, it doesn't matter what it is equal to 10 to the minus 3. 1 milligram is equal to 10 to the minus 3. Now, because I have it set up this way, as you can see, mathematically, the milligram units cancel, which is exactly what we want because we're trying to convert into grams. So we have finished this step of the process. We've successfully done this step of the conversion process. And now we want to focus on this step right here. So we're going to move on to the next step of the conversion process. Now we're trying to get rid of the gram unit. The gram unit is located right here. In our conversion factor, we want it to be on the opposite side. I don't know why I made that so big. So we want, if our gram is starting out on the top, we want our gram unit to be on the bottom of the conversion factor. Our desired unit, we want it up on top. And to get the relationship, or to be able to fill in the numbers here, we're going to consult our table of prefixes. Here's kilo, and we can see that kilo represents 10 to the 3. So that means 1 kilo is 10 to the 3 of whatever it is, and the gram units cancel. Now, before we do the math on this, let's talk for a second about why I suggest doing this in 2 steps instead of just doing it all in 1 step. These tables of prefixes give you the relationship between the prefixes and the base units. The table of prefixes don't give you the relationship between one prefixed unit and another. So if you wanted to go directly from milligrams into kilograms, you would either have to look that conversion factor up somewhere else, or you'd have to do that conversion factor in your head, figure it out in your head. If you have quite a bit of experience with doing metric to metric prefixes, that may be really easy for you to do in your head. It may be no big deal. But when you're starting out initially, this is the method that I suggest because it is less likely for you to mess this one up. So let's go ahead and work the math out on this. This is going to be 9 times 10 to the minus 6, and the units are kilograms. And if you're stressing out about how did I get that number, actually, that's not even right. 900 times 10 to the minus 6. So how did I get that number? I just did the math on here. 900 times 10 to the minus 3 divided by 10 to the 3 gives me 900 times 10 to the minus 6. So there I have done my milligram to kilogram conversion. The last thing that ALEKS is asking me to do in this particular problem is figure out the quantity of 100 pills, not just a single pill. So what I've done here is figured out the quantity of the mass of 1 pill. 1 pill is 900 times 10 to the minus 6 kilograms. So I've calculated the mass of 1 pill in units of kilograms, and now I need to calculate that for 100 pills. And to do that, I'm just going to multiply by 100. So if I multiply by 100, both sides of this, I'm going to have 100 pills, and that mass is going to be 900 times 10 to the minus 4 kilograms. Now, ALEKS is, ALEKS wants this answer to be written as a decimal. So 1,234.0900 kilograms. Now, let me talk really quick about the other 2 versions of this problem. As I said before, one version of the problem is not going to involve this quantity portion at all. It's just going to be a unit conversion. So you're just going to be doing this step right here. You're not going to have to do any of this kind of stuff. The other version of the problem is basically the opposite of this. So the other version of the problem is going to say something like 100 pills weighs or has a mass of 0.09 kilograms, and then it's going to ask you to go backwards. What is the mass of 1 pill in, say, milligrams or some other unit? It's basically just asking you to do the opposite. Now, you are going to, if you have this version of the problem, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to start with your unit conversion. You're going to start by converting, if this was my problem, I would start by converting 900 kilograms into milligrams. So start by doing your unit conversion. And then once you get the unit conversion, in this step down here, instead of multiplying to figure out the mass of a larger quantity, you're going to divide to figure out the mass of a smaller quantity. So if I had this problem, this type of problem, in this step, instead of multiplying by 100, I'd be dividing by 100 to figure out the mass or the volume or whatever of a smaller number of objects.